People tell me their team avoids hard conversations because they don't have the courage. I want to push back on that. Your team is full of accomplished people who've had hard conversations their whole career. They are not suddenly afraid. They are reading something, and whatever they are reading is louder than the courage you're asking them to find. Over the last 30 years, I've been working with leadership teams across different industries and countries and cultures. And one thing I've learned is most leadership teams are not avoiding the hard conversation just because they don't know how to have it. They are avoiding it because the system around them is sending signals that the conversation is not safe or not useful or not worth the risk. And until that signals change, no amount of encouragement will create the level of candor you're hoping for. So let's talk about what is really happening. One of the most important things that surprised executives when I began working with their leadership team is how often they already know what the difficult conversation is. Many leaders can identify it within seconds. It's the issue everyone references indirectly. The tension that shows up during side conversations or the decision that keeps getting postponed, sometimes the conflict that never quite makes it onto the agenda. That elephant isn't hiding. Everybody can see it. The question is why nobody is talking about it. And this is where many organizations misunderstand what's happening because they label it as courage problem. We need people to speak up. We need people to be more direct. We need more accountability. Maybe that's true, but often that's not the real issue. What I see is something different. People are doing what I call political math. Yes, you heard me well. You may be asking, what's the political math about? So let me expand on that point. Before speaking, they are unconsciously calculating. What happens if I say this? Will I be seen as difficult? Will I lose influence? Will this impact my relationship with the CEO or other colleagues? Will my department lose support? Will anything actually change if I bring it up? And if the perceived cost of speaking is higher than the perceived cost of staying silent, well, people will stay silent. Not because they lack courage, because they are adapting to the system they are operating in. And they did their calculation and found out that the cost is so high, and leadership teams are incredibly good at reading that. They notice who gets rewarded, who gets ignored, whose opinions carry weight. They notice what happens after someone challenges the status quo. The system is always teaching people how to survive. Whether leaders realize it or not, it is here. And when I worked with teams where the stated value was candor, but the behavior being rewarded was loyalty, the leaders will say, yes, we want to challenge each other and have powerful debate. But every time someone challenged a decision, they were viewed as resistant. I've worked with teams where agreement was celebrated so strongly that disagreement started to feel dangerous. Can you imagine the result? Well, the team looks aligned, but underneath, important conversations are happening somewhere else, in hallways, in private calls, on private Zoom chat, after the meeting, or sometimes never. And that comes at a cost. A three kind of very expensive cost. First, there is the decision cost. Since decisions will take longer, the same topics return over and over again. People leave meetings with different interpretations. Execution will be slowing down. Second, there is the talent cost. Since strong leaders become frustrated, especially the ones who care deeply about the organization's success. Eventually, they stop contributing or they leave. Not because they don't care, but because they no longer believe their voice matters. Third cost, there is the strategic cost. Organizations will be missing opportunities and majority of the risk will remain hidden. In consequence, the innovation will decrease and the leadership team loses its ability to think collectively. Because the most important information never makes it into the room. Let me share this experience. I remember working with a leadership team for a few months where everyone was talking about execution issues. The conversation kept circling and circling around missed deadlines, priorities, accountability. But the real issue wasn't execution. The real issue was trust in the direction being set by the executive team leader. Nobody was saying it, neither the CEO or the executives, not even the board representatives. But you can feel it everywhere, as if it's in the air and untouchable. The conversations were so polite. Everyone was given an update by choosing every word. The meetings looked so productive, yet the progress remained slow. Finally, I asked the team, what is the conversation that everyone already knows that exists, but nobody is having? And the room went completely silent, not for a few seconds, for what felt like forever. So I was observing the room. One had this smile, another was looking in the window, another was looking towards the CEO, and so on, until one executive spoke, then another one. And within 20 minutes, they were discussing the issue they had collectively avoided for months. The fascinating part? Nobody was shocked because everybody already knew. The relief in the room was almost immediate. Energy shifted, the quality of the conversation changed. And for the first time, the team was working on the real problem, not the symptom. Which brings me to where I think leaders need to start. The leader has to go first, not because the leader has all the answers, but because the team is watching. They are trying to determine whether candor is actually allowed, not in theory, but practically. And those are very different things. People don't believe what leaders say. They believe what leaders consistently reward. So instead of asking, why isn't my team speaking up? A more useful question might be, what has my team learned happens here when someone tells the truth? Pause for a moment and think about it. What have they learned? Because their answer will determine if they can have a difficult conversation. One practical question you can bring into your next leadership team meeting. What is the conversation we're most likely to regret if we don't have it today, 6 months from now? Don't rush the silence. Let people think and pay attention to what emerges. You may discover that your team already knows exactly what needs to be discussed. They've simply been waiting for permission. So if there is a conversation your leadership team has been avoiding, I invite you to take my leadership alignment scorecard assessment, because it will show you exactly where the hidden gaps are in your own team right now. It takes about 5 minutes. You answer 16 questions about your leadership team, and you get a personalized read on where the system is creating friction. Click the link below in the description, and I will see you in the next video.